Well, that was cool. Oops. Hello there. And make sure the audio is good. It appears to be good. Happy day, my people. Happy apocalypse. How's the apocalypse treating you? Are the lips of the apoco being kind? Are they whispering truth into your ear? Like a movie theater with your first date. Is it a sultry truth or does it burn when it goes down your neck? It doesn't matter, does it? Because we want it anyway. We are addicted to truth. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful drug. And yeah, let's get started. Had some good feedback on the show yesterday. Thank you so much for hearing that in a dilated way. That's a big topic, right? To go into, and I think we covered it nicely. What tomatoes were thrown were respectable. They had substance to them. They were nice and rotten. They were kept and thrown for a reason. It wasn't a from the hilt kind of toss. And I always appreciate that. I think that's more important to me than us disagreeing. In fact, I would prefer that we disagree, and I'll tell you why. Some of us are socially autistic. I am one of those people. I've learned to turn it into a personality trait. I've done pretty well with that. It's gotten me by. I am more fortunate than others. Others are not able to turn that into a personality trait. It tends to spiral them too much, and so they're inside when they're around a group of people, and those people are lying to each other. They're inside. They're doing this. They have their hands wrapped around their knees, and they're just like, I will not say anything. I will not say anything, even though he says that he doesn't mean it, but deep down I know that I can trust him. Even though everything he's saying right now is complete bullshit, it still means that this is the social fabric and this is how it works, and I can find solace somehow in here as long as I remember that everyone loves me while they lie. And you are put in this trance where everyone around you is requiring perspectives from you to make themselves feel better, right? You know what I mean? Whether it be the social connotations through politics, through religion, through love, through relationships, through family, through business, through the corporate world. We are required to fulfill the potholes in other people's dogma. And please don't tell me it's not true, that doesn't work that way. You are a human. You are fabrically connected to. Each of us are connected by the face. When we see each other's face, it has no choice. It's going to light up our brain like a functional MRI. The entire thing's going to full of color, both lobes. It's nothing reacts more than the living human face. I used to design newspaper covers for a living for like a decade. And I really learned this skill. Our newspapers, we knew how many. It was a free newspaper, and we didn't know. We tracked how well we did by counting the number of newspapers that came back to us. Right. So when Owen, the guy that was in charge of distribution, would come back in his Subaru, you could see how heavy his car was. And you had a rough idea of how well or how poorly that cover did. The cover, the actual cover on the newspaper. It's a weekly newspaper, right? It's an alternative paper. It wasn't like a regular newspaper. Regular newspaper, you have headlines, but on a weekly, you tend to have the ability to broadcast an image. That's why there's typically only one image on a cover. It's because you're sniping at someone from 20 paces, right? It's you need to snipe them at 20 paces, pull them in, and then hit them with whatever it is that you need to make them pick it up. And I say that, hit them like that, because it really does. That's how it works. You have to have a certain amount of shock and awe that comes in that cover. And I learned really quick that the shock and awe was never broadcast through objects. It was always broadcast through faces. Case in point, a mushroom cloud on a cover. Let's pretend like nuclear bombs are real. A mushroom cloud on a cover is a shock and awe, right? It is. But I guarantee you, I can send more papers out. I will get fewer papers back if I showed the reaction, right? The facial reaction to a mushroom cloud versus the actual mushroom cloud. But James, how would someone know that the reaction was about a nuclear bomb? And the answer is, it doesn't freaking matter. The limbic system, the mammalian system of empathy responds to itself. It responds to the social network that it's created for itself. You're going to generate more neuron firings through showing a face than you are a nuclear mushroom cloud blast. And those neurons are going to be far more powerful than any photo you could throw at them, because they're just simply not activating the same amount. This is why Hollywood works the way it works. This is why the silver screen is such a vital part of the hypnosis. It's important that the silver screen shows you a face larger than your own. That is a limbic ratio, right? If you really look at what is my limbic system doing? Remember, the reptilian brain only cares about two things, right? Number one, is it novel? Is it new? Right? That's first. We've been over this. I don't mind covering it again. And number two, is it dangerous? And that's it, right? That's it. That's the only two things our reptiles doing. Are you new? And are you dangerous? So, what happens if something new comes in that's not dangerous and then suddenly becomes dangerous? That is what you would call a blind spot in the reptilian brain. You could sneak in through the enemy fort by not being dangerous for a certain period of time, right? To being a sleeper cell, so to speak. It's when you're speaking to someone on the subterranean level, and we speak to each other so much on a subterranean level. In fact, we speak to, I'm writing this down because it's so important we talk about this, and I didn't have it down there. We speak to each other on a subterranean level, more than we're willing to. In fact, I would argue, my friends, that we would each go be much more successful at reading each other if we would stop listening to our words. I would argue that if none of us could speak words, if you could place, don't freak out. If you could place a patch with a numbing liquid, and you could place it right here behind the, don't freak out. This is all voluntary. If you could place this patch right here behind your head, and this numbing liquid was to subdue your language center for a temporary period of time, you would disable the Babel virus. My friends, a Babel virus was installed in each of us a long time ago. It is the virus of language. It creates a crystalline structure in the brain that causes certain neurons to fire in a amped up way. It allows sigils to carry amperage. Sigils meaning letters. It allows these letters and it allows these tones to carry amperage. It turns them into photons. It turns words into little tiny railroad cars. And those railroad cars have amperage inside them, right? I can say certain words, atomic bomb, and those words, even though they're said in a certain tone, atomic bomb, they come with an amperage to them that is nothing at all having to do with my visage or with the energy that I have as I throw it. Roses in the morning. These are two separate asynchronous connections, right? Your empathic connection versus the meaning of the words itself. Now, this patch that we're not freaking out over, because this is just a thought experiment, is numbing your babble virus. And now when you're at the party and you're having a conversation with someone, you're not hearing, "Hi Ted, how are you doing? It's good to see you, my friend. Really like what you've done with the lawn. I noticed that your car is really shiny. I noticed that your wife has abundant hips and supple wrists." And instead, if you could instead hear, "I honor you." How do I say this, right? How do you convey what's underneath those words that I just said? How do you convey this lustful jealousy? You do it by facial recognition. You do it by eye-to-eye contact. You unlock, you grant each other access into your endocrine system. You say, "This is my cockpit." When we have eye contact, what we're doing is we're agreeing. I realize I can't actually have eye contact with you, which is a bummer. When we open contact, when we have eye contact with someone, we're basically allowing each other into our cockpit. We are allowed to read from each other's adrenal glands simultaneously. And it creates this deeper connection that we cannot feel because of the amperage of the babble, because of the words causing all the neurons to fire like sugar in our head. It's drowning out the subtle, supple noises of communication that we have. And you see it when you're talking to someone. You can tune their words out and just pay attention to this subterranean stream. You're still giving them your prana. You're still fully engaged. But honestly, you're having a different conversation with them. You're having a conversation with, I'm going to use the word lower self, but to me it's more of a deeper self. I'm not going to use the word lower self. You're having a conversation with their deeper self. And as a social autist, I had to learn this skill to survive. This was not a plan. I did not go to a school. I did not call the number in the back of the comic book. It was something that I had to do because I really, really didn't want to be alone in social circumstances. I wanted to engage my friends and still have a conversation with them and still find a way to meet them on a certain level. And the key to that is that I had to be consistent, not nice. As long as I was consistent, I was accepted. I didn't have to be nice. I had to be consistent. And that really does show me this deeper layer of connection you can have with your neighbors, your friends, your cohorts, with anybody. And before I get to the key there, the Well-Read Poet, grab up for the babble. Thank you, the Well-Read Poet, for the super chat. And to really bring this home, to really, really take the grabble and put it into the babble, I'm going to say to you as a final proof to this, that our most important contracts that we have are signed with genitals. We sign the big contracts, the ones that really mean the most, with our genitals. And Nothing really can be more profound than that. A wedding is consummated, right? The hotel has been rented for months. She's carried across the threshold in your arms. You lay her down on the bed, and you unroll the 17-page contract. And you hand her a pen and you say, honey, let's consummate this wedding. I'd like you to sign here, 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 and over here, and here. That's not how we consummate. We do it with our genitals. Bloodlines are those contracts, right? Bloodlines are the original blockchain, as one of my friends pointed out on Twitter. It's the initial root of the tree that we build everything else off of. But we're living in a world of Babylon, right? The patch is off, we're restored. Hey Ted, it's really good to see you. I'd like to point out that your wife's naughty bits. You see, he's allowed to subterraneanly trample all over you as long as the babble is right, as long as the words send a different signal. And this is the world of contracts, and this is the world of rational thought. And rational thought is overrated. Rational thought actually leads, oh man, am I getting the weeds here by saying that? By saying it's overrated? The reason why I have to say it's overrated, though, is because I'd like for you to look at what happens when you fetishize rational thought. Because what I see happens is that you turn the world into Babel and everything becomes a material. And by material, everything is now measured by weight. It's not measured by anything human. It's measured by everything non-human. It's measured by the objectification of itself. And I think this is very difficult to see because all of our words are in Babel. And as a linguist, as a writer, as someone who's written not just software and not just literature and not just sigils, right? Through the use of designing covers, not just sigils. All of those have been different languages that I've had to learn to perfect as a social autist in order to still fit in order to still be accepted in society. And I used to think only I was going through this. But now you guys are buying my books and you're saying, hey man, you're making sense. And I realize, okay, it's not just me. And now a new husk is broken. And we are discovering things that the generations before us did not know. And it's with compassion that we can understand why they did not know those things. Why they were not able to see the moon landing, right? Or World War II. Or World War I. Right? But we started to see it in Vietnam. We sort of started to see it with JFK. Sort of, not really. We saw more of it in Vietnam, right? We improved. Every generation improved. And as we improve, our connection with God has to change. We approach our relationship with God differently as we grow. It enhances itself. And as we learned yesterday, or not learned, as we unlearned, yes, as we unlearned yesterday, because to listen yesterday is not to be on board. But as we unlearned yesterday, it may not be the most intimate relationship with God to take everything the Lord says as canon law and to never question any of it, right? Like Romans 13, like the very city-state that was crucifying Jesus. We're listening to Jesus say how important it is that you pay pay homage and taxes to them, and that you grant them your authority. We see things that have been slipped in. We see things that have been added to the record. And the most important part of yesterday, I hope that I can carry over today without having to repeat everything I said yesterday. The most important part of all this is that our faith grows stronger through this discernment. It grows more amplified. What I mean by that is that for me to say Romans 13 is something that was added into the Bible that was used basically as a mind control, and it's showing you the discernment of where family is. If you were to say, well, therefore we have to reject the Bible, here's what you're missing. Truth has, this is beautiful because Trump is going through this right now. Truth has a root that is, Hegel actually talked about this. Truth has a tendency to find itself in the swaying of lies, in the swinging of extremes. Truth is given the opportunity to find its center. Okay? It's able to set its root by flailing this way and then flailing that way. This is the Hegelian dialectic, but most people only know the Hegelian dialectic and they think of it as, oh, it's a bad, dirty thing they did to mind control us. No, actually what Hegel was talking about was this is how you find truth, my friends. If you want to find truth, you're going to need to pick an extreme, any extreme, and push yourself there and find out what's wrong. And then experience a backlash and find out what's right with it. Holy shit, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's very similar to the wrestling ropes, right? Donald Trump is on the outs, right? James Comey's coming to get him. Tall Comey, Forrest Comey, right? And he throws Trump up against the ropes. And Trump experiences one side. I'm going to build a wall. And then he crashes into the other side, right? I'm going to put Hillary in jail. He's building up his amperage so he can strike. So he can find his center and hit the truth square in the nose. Now, sadly, it's Comey, so it's not truth. But it shows you the amperage, right? It shows you this AC serpentine connection that we've discovered, that our forefathers before us, the giants' shoulders that we're standing on, only saw this in a DC way, but we are seeing this in an AC way. Hegel was telling you that in order to find truth, you're going to need to fall for the passion of the lies. You're going to need to put on the uniform, the clothing, the electrical field of both extremes in order to find yourself in what you consider the truth. Now, here's the important part, because as it pertains to the Bible, Trump is a follower. He is the best follower you've ever seen. How does he do that? He looks at the crowd, he sees the zeitgeist of the crowd, and he finds a way to lead them. He leads them by seeing where they all are and being where they all are more. This is a leadership through following. It's only because people were concerned about the border wall that Trump came in promising a border. Right now, he wants to paint it black. Did you hear this the other day? He wants to paint it black because he wants it to be super hot for anyone trying to get over it. He is picking the border because it's an issue he can use. He's picking it because it's an opportunity where he can step out in back, like in front, and lead by being the best follower that there is. As he continues, He has no choice but to read the zeitgeist and say, where can I be? Where can I place myself? That will make me the most passionate follower there is. And this sounds all bad, but it's actually great news, because it means Trump never actually gets to say, here's the truth. Trump, as the mega follower, never actually gets to tell you where things are. It's actually you telling you where you think things are, but in a collective way. What I'm getting at is that Trump can ride the lightning, but he can't direct the lightning. We direct that lightning. And what you're seeing in the Bible proves it. It proves it, because before the Bible, before the Talmud, before the Torah, before all those things, there was astrotheology. There was Zoroastrianism. There was a stock that was already there. And people wanting to find God were already doing that work. And when Judaism rose as a trauma cult in Rome, it had no choice but to find, just like Trump did, it had no choice but to say, what is the pinnacle feeling of the day, right? What can I latch myself onto and ride the lightning? And that really shows you it's there is a deeper truth that will always be inside this core, regardless of all the Trumps that come and try and wrap their own idea around it, if that makes sense. I've used this analogy of a stone cross, a megalithic cross, wrapped in this poison ivy and poison oak. But you can still see the shape. You know what it is, right? It's wrapped in this kudzu. You see the shape. The truth is there. But because it's the truth, you know, because it's the truth, that just by being in this world where we need the flexibility of free will, that it's going to be surrounded by the ligature, this vinage, of lies, of manipulation, of propaganda, of deceit, of pain. It's people are using the strength of that tree to express their anger and place their prana into it by lying about it, by defaming it. The critic will only shit on the best work. It's that kind of energy. It's gross, but it's only gross because we're living up in Babel. We're not able to process the compassion aperture to see that they are giving us energy. That's really what it comes down to. It's the press. It's the notion you hear that there's no such thing as bad press. Right? There's no such thing as bad prana. And as each of us grows stronger in our discernment, right? As we awaken more to that, this is another piece that our giants before us didn't have an easy time seeing as we do now. We're able to capitalize on this compassion now and see the gifts of Baal. The gifts of Baal. I did a stream on that where we specifically spoke about that. And it's only with the gifts of Baal that we're able to really interpret why Building 7 was shown to us. Right? Building 7 wasn't a mistake. It wasn't, oh man, we were supposed to knock down that Building 2. Man, it ruined the whole thing. What should we do? And Larry's like, oh, let's just go ahead and pull it later. No one will notice. That's no. There's a much more likely explanation for that. And it's that Building 7 was left for us as a key to adore and to why all this is happening. Same as the train trying to crash into the ship's mercy and comfort. The two white pillars, the Masonic pillars. The same ritual that's been repeated over and over, but for some reason always involves fake psyops, fake pandemics, fake shootings, fake Pizzagate stories. All these Epstein, right? All these stories. I please don't make me list them all. And the Stockholm makes us keep approaching them. They must be real. This must be the base result is what you've told me is real. That's what separates. That's what separates the aperture of compassion right now. Man, I hope I'm probably not articulating this. If I'm having to hope I'm articulating it right, that probably means I'm not articulating it right. The reason why more people believe in a globe is because they're still approaching things from everything I've been told I'm going to assume is true, unless I've done the diligent calories to disprove it. Okay? The aperture switch, when you step, see, you're outside of here, the aperture, you're outside of it. You're in a globe-based aperture. And because you're looking at the world through that globe-based aperture, the entire world has an answer now. Everything has a shape. Everything's contained. You know all the geography that's there. You know all the laws that's there. You're just accepting things that are fantasy, but it doesn't matter because enough people are accepting gravity as a force, for example. It gives you the comfort to know, I get it, because here's all the answers. You see, globalism has all the answers. It tells you there is no God. It hints at that. I'll throw that out. I'll take it out. I'll throw that out. I retract that. I misspoke. It tells you that the entire world is solved, that our world is solved, that everything around us is solved. It explains how you got here. It gives you an idea of creation. It gives you a timeline. It stretches the timeline so far away that you're lost in the awe of it all, right? It gives you the vacuum. It gives you the absence. It justifies every lie that you've ever heard. And you're approaching the world from the standpoint of everything I've been told is true. Everything I've been told is true. Everything I've been told is true. And you're picking up things, going, well, everything I've been told is true. And everything you're seeing is from that standpoint. The aperture switches when you have social autism, or you suffer from enough PTSD, like media PTSD, you know what I mean? Like where you just really get confused because you're just like, oh God, oh, is there pedophilia? Wait a minute, James. You're saying there's no pedophilia when you're saying Pizzagate's fake? And you're trying to understand what I mean. You're trying to understand that the truth is this monolithic stone, but wrapped around it is all these kudzu of ivy of lies, and that we get lost in the thorns of those lies, and we never actually get to see the shape. We never actually get to touch the stone underneath and go, there it is. It's hard. It's hard stepping through the aperture to the other side. And the moment you're here, you have to wake up every morning and go, oh yeah, everyone thinks the world's like this. Everyone thinks that what the media says is a baseline of real. And it instantly, before you even have your Cheerios, you're doing the push-ups and you're having to reinforce your aperture. You're having to spend a lot of calories holding it, and you can't even hold it all. You will slip back through the aperture to the other side. You can't help it. It's like you're cleaning your house and it's been so long, it's just so freaking trashed that you just have to go outside and just take a break and just be like, man, I can't handle it in there. It's hard to be inside the zeitgeist, inside that aperture. It's hard to be around people that are. It's hard to maintain your own cosmology. And that hardness is a gift of Baal. It's part of why this is the best apocalypse ever. these things are making all of us do this at once, which is helping you. It's helping me. It's forcing more people into the category of social autists, which is actually closer to reality. I took a drink every time the hummingbird did there. Just wanted to point that out. And I think that's why yesterday was so hard. That's probably I had so many downvotes yesterday. Because I'm ruining it inside the aperture by making the outside of the aperture so clear, right? I'm ruining it for them. We all are. We're ruining it for the mask wearers by making it expensive. I just want to wear my mask, right? Can't you just let me wear my mask without you making it expensive? And thank God enough of you have said, no, sorry. I like this world. I don't want to make everyone wear a mask. Good for you. That's you doing the push-ups every morning going, oh God, there's people that want to wear masks. There's people that believe in germ theory and there's never been proof. There is no gold standard for virus testing. It's hard. But we get through it. What the Bible really does, okay, the Bible does a lot. But I think one of the things that we forget, one of the most valuable things the Bible gives us that we miss, is that it's showing you how far we've come in the human condition. It's shown you the distance we've crawled from following vapor clouds in the desert, skinning our children alive on the genitals, threatening to kill them at an altar in the daytime, smearing our favorite goat's blood above the door, attacking cities. If we rape our wife, we have to give her 20... if you rape a virgin, one verse says, if you rape a virgin who's ripe, just give the dad 20 ounces of silver. It's like $316 basically is what the Bible says. In Deuteronomy, I forget the passage, sorry. It's one Deuteronomy passage that says that. That doesn't mean all the Bible's bad. No, it's showing you. It wants you to see. It's like, hey, best apocalypse ever. Look, the Bible tells you this. It tells you this too. Now you can either throw out the entire thing, or you can go, wait a minute, what else is here? And what I'm showing you is what else is here. It's the cross. Beneath the man that's been strung out on the cross is a cross. Beneath all that is a cross that dates back to Zoroastrianism, that dates back to Ahura Mazda, that dates back to Petra, my friends. Petra. That's how far it goes back. In fact, it shows up in Native American culture as the cross. It shows up in Norse mythology, right? It shows up in all these places, but it doesn't always have a dead guy hanging on it. That's not always a part of it. That element was added by the same city that wanted to murder an animal every Passover, that wanted to sacrifice an animal to slit its throat in an innocent blood way because they believed it made their Lord feel better. And what I think our biggest problem that we've done is we've combined the words Lord and God. We said those are the same, and they're not. Those of you who are listening, I have shown a graphic on the screen, very simple. It's a circle, and it's labeled God. And when I hit the next slide, I show you a Remphaim, Shield of Remphaim, Star of David. Some of you guys might know it as. Anyone who knows the symbols of earth and air, right? Actually, it's kind of all of them. They're all the symbols. The 4 elements are all expressed here. But basically, that one's labeled Lord, right? So you've got your God as the circle. Then inside the circle, the 6-pointed star, you have Lord. And what I'm suggesting, and what I suggested yesterday, is that these two things are different. That we have a God and we have a Lord. And if you understand the difference between the two, I think you will see that the Lord is here to punch you in the face. He is your sparring partner. The Lord is here to deceive you. Your Lord is here to say, hey man, give me your consent. Give me your consent. Come on, give me your consent. Come on. I'll promise you things. I'll give you things if you drop your guard. That's what your sparring partner's saying. That's what Lord is. Lord technology. Lord is the instrument of God. You don't have to believe this, but just hear me out. Just like compassion is not consent, Lord is not God. Guys, that's all I'm saying. Just like compassion and consent are different, so too are God and Lord. And God needs the Lord as an instrument for training. And how does he train you? He goes, hey, look, man, Lord's like, hey, you could totally rape that chick as long as you give her dad 20 shillings. You can do whatever you want as long as you fear me. Right? How many passages in the Bible talk about fearing the Lord? It's immeasurable, right? All of faith comes through fear. It's crazy how much fear is pushed in relation to Lord. Why is God fear? That doesn't feel right to any of you. I know it doesn't feel right to any of you. It doesn't feel right to me. God is not fear. Lord is fear. And here they are working together. They are working together in tandem. The circle is compassion. God is the compassion around the Lord, right? In the center, a smaller part of that compassion inside is 666, right? What do you mean 666? If you look at the symbol of the Lord, you'll see it's got 6 points, 6 triangles, and in the center there is a hexagon. The atomic weight of carbon, 6 protons, 6 electrons. Atomic weight of something else 6, right? That's 666. And of course you're going to fear your trainer. Of course, when you get in a match, right? Yeah, it's 6 neutrons. Sorry guys, 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. It's the carbon atom. You're made out of carbon. You knew that, but you're made out of carbon. But you're going to fear the ultimate carbon. You're going to fear him because he's going to beat your ass. He's going to take your consent because you're going to give it to him. Right? Stop hitting yourself. 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 Right? What does that teach you to do growing up when they tell you to stop hitting yourself? Do you learn? Could you defend your family as an adult if no one ever hit you? Could you realize your full potential as sovereign if no one tripped you as you walk by? If no one convinced you to give them your allowance? If no one told you a story that you wanted to believe and you did? These are 2 totally different jobs, guys. God and Lord. Lord and God. And we've known this intrinsically throughout history. We've known this truth. We've known it as we've changed our definition of what worship is, of what religion is. You could think of deism, pantheism, and henotheism as all organ religion, archon religion, orcons, the god of organs. There was a belief in a god as not being anthropomorphized, right? Not being turned into man. God is something that is not man. That was a more puristic form of describing God. It's deism, not theism. Deism and theism both have this belief in God. But theism comes with a natural connotation that deism doesn't have. And that really is the anthropomorphication of God. And even if you don't turn, because not all theism turns God into like a man figure, but God becomes interested in man alone. God becomes focused. God uses the world as a chessboard, and man is placed on this chessboard, and he interacts with him in some way. That's really the main difference. That you have deism, you have this belief in, again, it's not even the body of God, it's the organs of God, the rivers, the streams, the clouds, the soil, the animals. These are all expressions of God, right? The crops. These are all expressions of God. That's deism. Theism is the beginning of materialism, believe it or not. It's the beginning of the petrification of spirit into things. It's, if you, for example, if you look at not just the Catholic Church, I don't mean just to pick on them, but you have an idea where it's like, you got a soul, you got a soul, you don't have a soul, you don't have a soul, you don't have a soul, you got a soul, you have a soul, you don't have a soul, you don't have a soul. That's Medusa. What do you mean, James? Well, Medusa looks at things and turns them to stone. It's no different than by looking at something and saying, you're the chosen thing. And then everything else is like, well, fuck. Why'd you have to say you're the chosen thing? Why couldn't you just look at it? Humanity, like I said yesterday, remember I told you the truth is already out there, and people come in and they try and lead it. Look at the human condition back then. Look at the propensity for, look in the Bible, look at the propensity for sodomy, theft, murder, sexual, not even sexual violence, you know what I mean, like the violence disguised as sexual violence, the way we treated our children, each other. It was a much harsher time. And in order for the human condition to be brought forward, the Lord in the Old Testament was using the harsher time as a sparring partner would to hit harder. He was hitting you much harder. He was saying, will you put your son on this stone table and empty his blood in my honor? Right? And people are like, yeah, I'll do it. The Lord's like, oh shit, wait a minute. I didn't think you were going to do that. Man. And the whole time, he's like this. Okay. Totally fucked up that one. Yeah, I honor you. Yeah, you're great. You're great. Keep it up. Stay with me. Stay in the ring, right? I need you to stay in the ring. You're still my child. I'm still here training you. But I'm going to have to work on this. I'm going to have to hit you with more stuff. I need you to break your discernment. But meanwhile, we're like, no, everything you say is good, Lord. It's just whatever you say is good. And the sparring partner's like, I need you to think for yourself, man. I need you to find your rhythm inside. I need you to find your own truth. If you just repeat everything that I do, I'm going to hit you every time. I'm going to hit you every time because I already know your moves. You need to use your intuition to find your own moves. And how do you do that? The Lord itself is constantly playing a game of Prometheus with you. And if you look in the Old Testament, if you look at the aperture for the human condition back then, we have always had a capacity to sell ourselves to the machine. And if you look back in the Old Testament, we were more willing to sell our children to the machine. We were more willing to sell ourselves to the machine than we are now. Actually, not all. It's sort of a a weird twisting, because if you look at Constantine, you'll see that. So when Constantine went north to attack the pagans, he was instantly overrun with a different kind of people. This wasn't the same as the Roman Empire, east or west. Those people already had installed in them this propensity to think of themselves in a I need to be ruled kind of a way. And then he goes north and he finds the pagans, and they're like, holy cow. These guys are so much harder to rule. I can't come conquer England. I have to stay here and wipe their noses. I have to constantly break them like wild horses. The men in Rome were already broken. All I had to do was become the new leader. Here, it's like a whole other thing. And his people, his fighters were losing a lot of battles that they shouldn't have lost. He didn't have the technology of belief that these woodsmen, these pagans had. They were more closer to the berserker standpoint, right? They were emotionally attached to this wildness of who they were. Their intuition was in full force. It was smeared on their face. It was smeared in the way they listened, the way they hunted, the way they attacked. The viciousness of their willingness to defend their land. It was brutal. It was so brutal that Constantine noticed he needed religion. He needed some way to tap into the technology of belief. In fact, in one of his battles, he discovered technology. He discovered it. He looked up into the sky. It's in the middle of a battle. He's losing his ass bad. All of his men are. They're super far away from his home. He actually came to babysit for his dad. He actually came to be like, okay, I'll help you out, Dad. We're just conquering another land. They had already conquered so much. This should have been an easy thing for him. But he's getting his ass kicked. His ass is getting handed to him by people that are serious, have had some serious training in the dojo. I mean, serious. And that guy's drinking. Look at that. And Constantine, as he's losing the war, looks up to the sky and he sees this. He sees the cross, right? This is a cross with a P in it, guys. It's an X with a P in it. It's a P, it's like a rune, basically, with an X in it. And he sees it in the sky, and he takes some blood and he smears the symbol on his shield. And he goes, you guys, come here. I have seen God. And he just told me, we will defeat all of you. We will defeat all these people, I mean. But you got to smear this blood. You got to smear this symbol on you. And he knew that the only way he was going to defeat the pagans is by tapping into this primal, intuitive spirit of his men. It was the only thing that was going to work. And it really didn't work. Yes, he did conquer the north. But it was really a superficial thing. In fact, this is why paganism has been treated so brutally. It's because it was so dangerous. Chat. OBS reconnection successful. Test. Okay, I think we're still there. Paganism didn't have this anthropomorphication to their religion. It hadn't placed the materialism into the world that Rome had. And when you start to materialize things, when you start to Meducify things, you actually have to evacuate that. Your spirit has to evacuate it because you're saying that it's spiritless. It is it's just an object now. That hummingbird is just a machine. If you were to follow it to its lengths of, say, Rene Descartes, the guy was like opening up animals on his living animals on his autopsy table, and he felt like it was fine because they were all machines. If you really want to know what rationalism gets you, look at Rene Descartes. Look at the guy. Look at his life. Look at all the science that comes after. Look at how easily we are fooled to believe all these things. It's because of that materialism. It's because of that. Missouri Bear, he saw what he called the cross, and it was later. You got to understand that he wasn't saying, "I give this to Christianity." He was giving it to God, and God was up for grabs. This title of God versus Lord was up for grabs, and it was retroactively fitted. Constantine's religion was retroactively added. He adopted religion that he did not believe, but at the same time, after he reigned, his religion was also changed to fit the times. This is what I mean about Trump. Trump doesn't have a deep desire to build a wall. He didn't wake up going, "I really want to build a wall. That's what I really want to do." No, he woke up going, "I want to lead. I want to be in control as many people as I can. How do I do that? I'm going to have to adopt the wall." This is what Constantine did. He did the same thing. I want to adopt this. I want to adopt Christianity. And this is not a bash on Christianity, because what you see is really, it's the birth of theism. It's the birth of the anthropomorphification of God. And a lot of people miss the subtle difference, but the founders of our country, many of them were deists. And that's not a rejection of God. It's only theism. It's only theism that tells everyone else, "You're not theism." That's the monotheism talking. That's the Highlander quickening that was installed in you. This notion that there can be only one. In fact, hundreds of years ago, that quickening was henotheism. I think, let me make sure that word's right. It was its own category. No, not henotheism. It was monolatry. That's the word. The idea is, yes, there are many gods, but if you don't worship the right one, you were screwed. We were cutting your nuts off. You see the rise of this tendency, of this victory over wisdom, right? There can be only one. There can be only one side. So what I'm putting forward is that we've always had these two notions of God as the circle. This is paganism. This is pantheism. This is henotheism, right? Most of your Hinduism is going to fit in here. And then there's Lord technology. And I'm suggesting it's a divine technology. I think it's really important. Without Lord technology, we do not build a tower. And if we don't build a tower, we can't smash that tower. And if we don't smash that tower, we can't reunite. But the cycle cannot complete itself. If you can picture this in any way, picture a torus, a donut, lying flat. And every 22,000 years, someone builds a tower in the center of the donut. And that tower reaches the sky, the top of the donut. And when it's connected, Uranus and Gaia are joined. You have a joining of energy, right? And that energy joins and churns, and it breaks the filament, the tower. It's like a light that burns so much it breaks the filament. And when the filament crashes, the Tower of Babel falls, and you have a deluge. You have a grand reset. And all of our memories are reset, and we get to start over. And there's a new crop, a new genetic crop that works. And what you're calling reincarnation is probably more just heredity. It's probably more just you remembering your genetic line that was never created out of mud. It was simply wrapped into this universe. It was a necessary part of the fabric because you are the universe. You're not separate from the universe. You are the universe. But when we anthropomorphize God and we do not separate it from the Lord, we tend up wanting to project our own faults somewhere. And we end up pushing God outside of our world. We end up calling the world we live in evil and saying that it's God who's good and God will redeem me. And I think what causes all that confusion is that we've mixed up these two characters, Lord and God. We take it personally. We only take the Lord personally because we think he's God. It would be no different than mistaking our sparring partner for our own mother, right? Like, well, yeah, my mom told me I should give her my car keys. So I did, and she welded them together and gave them back to me and laughed about it. And I'm like, why would my mom do that, right? But they're two separate roles. God is compassion. Lord is not. Right? But it's a gift of all. Lord is a gift of all. Lord's pushing you against one side of the rope so you can bounce back to the other, so you can end up where you think the truth is. I think that the more we can see these two things are separate, the more compassion we have for all religion, and for ourselves, and for our sin, and for where we're going. And hopefully, the most important thing, it'd be great if we had more compassion for other people's religion, for other people's cosmology, for how they define things. I think that would get us a lot further. In fact, this could be the key. God and Lord could be the key to pushing you through the aperture into the next place. Because you're bypassing God. God is globalism. I know some of you guys are going to hate that, sorry. But God is globalism. You're believing that even though my senses show me that everything looks flat, I am doubting my own senses in favor of what I've been told. Because why would the world lie to me? Why would my mom punch me in the face? That's globalism. That's one way of looking at globalism. And then you've got Zeticism. You've bypassed the Lord, and you're looking directly at God now, and you're seeing the world through compassion. You're seeing past the lie, and you're understanding that that lie was necessary. That lie was your building 7 to get you to discern yourself and stop believing in government. To stop believing in the Lord and look at Lord as an instrument for you to find compassion. To look at building 7 as an instrument for you to find truth. If you can't see this, you're missing. Sorry. It's just the Lord graphic and the God graphic as I'm saying these things. But I think it helped. Building 7 is Lord. Truth is God. Right? And it's waiting for us to figure it out. And we are. We are. We're figuring it out just like we were supposed to. We're figuring it out just like it's been planned. I think that's why the triumvirate of Rome is such a good tool for us. When you start to understand, I should have pulled this out. Triumvirates of Rome. There were a couple. The first triumvirate. Let's see. First triumvirate. Right? It was these guys. Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. Whoops. Getting there. Rome. Blah, blah, blah. That should work, but it doesn't. Let's see here. Here it is. The first triumvirate of Rome. Now, keep in mind, Rome was supposed to be a Senate. It's supposed to be all democratic and stuff. But what you had is you had your first private alliance. People, this is Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. You had people that were pretending to represent the people, but were actually representing themselves. They were another form of Lord technology. Those guys were. And people believed in them like gods. In fact, Caesar staged, believe it or not, Caesar staged an event with Mark Antony where Mark Antony, this is just like wrestling, right? Imagine these guys are out in the elite gardens, right? Where like piss boys are walking around with, oh, would you like to pee in this bucket? And whatever, you know, the elite kind of elite. And Mark Antony grabs everyone's attention and goes, I wonder if we should consider Julius Caesar a god. He says that. And he's using the Hegelian dialectic before Hegel was even here. Because he implanted the idea that Caesar should be a god. And he knew, just like Caesar knew, that the second he said that, half the people at the party would be so disgusted and offended with Mark Antony that they would never speak to him again. Which means 3 days, right? But he was implanting this idea, and the people ended up creating a temple of Caesar. You're seeing the birth of the anthropomorphication of divinity in the first triumvirate. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing the Son of God, Augustus, the very first coin minted with Augustus's face, called him the Son of God. You're seeing the first anthropomorphification of theism versus deism. Deism is about organs, the organs of earth, the organs of your body. Your liver is a god. Your lungs are a god. Your kidneys are a god. Your intestines are a god. You are a living pantheon of spirit inside you. And you are just an organelle inside of a larger pantheon of gods. The river, the groves, the air, the soil, the salt, the oil. You are connected in every way. And I just wonder which one feels more like Lord and which one feels more like God. Because this triumvirate right here was not the first one. I mean, it was not the only one, right? That's just the first triumvirate. There's a second triumvirate. And I think that's the one with Augusta, if I remember correctly. Second triumvirate. And this is about to become even more important. Yes, Octavian and Lepidus were the second triumvirate. And what are these? You have people that are publicly pretending to be helping you when in fact they're helping each other. And that's the birth of politics. This is the birth of Donald Trump fighting with Anthony Fauci right now. Fauci. This is the birth of him saying he's going to lock her up. He's going to build a wall. It's all inside these triumvirates. It's a subterranean loyalty that surpasses humanity in all ways, shape, or form. That sounds like Lord, right? Man, carbon, man, right? That sounds like Lord, not God. And I believe that the Bible's greatest gift to you, one of the Bible's greatest gifts to you, is it's showing you the difference. But like Prometheus, you have to have the courage to see. You have to have the courage to see that and go, wow, look at the human condition. Look at how far it's come. Look at where it's at now, where I'm already discerning about circumcision or abortion or pedophilia. We are discerning about these things now. They bother us when they didn't used to. They bother some of us. They bother more of us now than used to. That's progress. And I'm telling you, the reason why that's progress is because of the gift of Baal. People have asked me this, and the answer is very simple. Well, James, why do we have pedophilia? The reason why we have pedophilia is because of how poorly we react to pedophilia. That's why we have pedophilia. The reason why we have corruption in government is because of how poorly we react to corruption in government. These are all gifts of Baal. Why do we have lying? Because of how poorly we react to our aperture and our compassion for others who have a different aperture. That's why we have lying. That's why there's no commandment saying thou shalt not lie to yourself. That's why in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is saying, don't lie to yourself. As you grow compassion, you will start to see. You will see things that others do not. You will see the compassion outside of the Lord. You will see how they work together as a gift of Baal to stimulate your growth, right? To fling you against the ropes and get you closer to where you need to be. The triumvirate got worse. That's what Zionism is. That's why there's so many dual citizens in our Congress. How is that even legal? Why is that legal? To have dual citizens. It makes no sense at all. But why do we have that? Because we're learning. It's because we're learning how to not have that. And I hope it comes quick. I really hope that it comes soon, because it'll be great. But we're getting there. We're getting there. QAnon is a perfect example of that. Someone was posting about how QAnon's made four posts about the coronavirus. And that shows you right there that QAnon was never willing to tell you the truth. He was looking forward. He knew that all the small businesses would be suffering through this. And it's not about truth. There's no compassion in that. There's only Lord. Well, I had to lie to you so you could learn this, learn to stop trusting me. It's that kind of thing. It's yeah. I wanted to show you another video, but it's not showing up, and I don't want to make you wait while I look for it. Plus, it's been over an hour. I think I've covered everything. Yep. Except for this. I hope this doesn't bore you, by the way. I'm going to tell you these real quick. Deism. One creator. The definition of deism is there's one creator, but he doesn't intervene in the world. He is the world. There's no reason to intervene because he is. Every piece of it is a necessary function. Monotheism. There's a creator in the world, but he has massive power, whether it be omniscience, omnipotence, or some sort of combination or a limited combination of those. It's a centralized power. It's a Babel, a building of the tower. Theism, right? The overall idea of this beginning, although the definition doesn't say to anthropomorphize God, if you look at it, what you're doing is you're starting to object God. You're turning God into a physical object so you can see him. It's a natural function of what we do. So we anthropomorphize him. We do something with him. Pantheism. The universe itself is God. We are living inside of God as God. We are not inside him because that would suggest we're separate. We are an exosome of God. Henotheism. There are many gods. These gods are simply aspects of the same universal truth. Monolatry. Many gods exist, but if you worship the wrong one, you are in serious trouble. Agnostic. It's impossible for me to know, therefore I make no choice. And finally, atheist. You're told that atheist means you do not believe in God. But my friends, atheism really means you do not believe in theism. And part of the apocalypse Just like we learn that compassion and consent are two different things, I hope that we learn that theism and deism are two different things. I really hope that we learn that, because if you learn that, you'll understand why I'm telling you atheism is the rejection of theism. Adeism isn't even a word. And what theism has done is centralized. I would call this Zionism is the cancer of that you've given divinity to Lord. You've taken Lord up and you placed him on a pedestal. And the only way you can satisfy that congruence, it's called gaslighting. To a social autist would say, that's gaslighting. Pick one, right? He said, no, this is it. It's just God. It's theism that tried to say, no, but the truth's always going to be in there. It just has to be decoded because we keep piling things on top of it. Thanks for the super chat, Kieran. Maybe the vaccine will be like being on the prescribed list, like the triumvirate of Robe. That's Lord technology. Vaccines are Lord, right? Vaccines are Lord technology. And you realizing vaccines are a lie is God. That truly could not be said simpler. I'm love that we're ending it on that note. Thank you much, guys. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you next time.